Hey everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of the Rock and Roll Experience with Mike Brunn. On this episode, we'll take a look back at the 1978 Ace Frehley solo album. This will be the first of a 5-part series where we'll take a look at each of the solo albums, so stay tuned for our episodes coming up soon on the Peter Criss, Gene Simmons, and Paul Stanley albums, as well as an episode we'll do wrapping up the whole thing and giving you our thoughts on the entire collection of the 1978 solo albums. We look forward to hearing all of your feedback on each of these episodes. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button below. If you're listening to one of my podcasts, subscribe over there as well. Also, head on over to Facebook and follow my page, The Rock and Roll Experience with Mike Brunn, where each and every day we talk about all the rock and roll music that you love. Now, without further ado, let's jump in with our conversation on the great Ace Frehley 1978 solo album. Hey everybody, welcome to the latest episode of the Rock and Roll Experience with Mike Brunn. I'm really excited to have with me back on the show my partner in crime, Mr. Vincent LaRussa.
Hey buddy, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. How are you doing? I didn't think you were going to acknowledge me there for a moment. I'm like, I announced you and you're like... I'm like, yeah, it's good.
How can I not acknowledge the rock and roll experience?
That's right.
Mike Brunn?
That's right. You better acknowledge that. So, we wanted to get together. The anniversary of the release of the solo albums is coming up, and we figured that we'd do a little chat about each of the albums. We'll do ultimately 5 episodes altogether, 1 on each of the albums, and then I guess a summary of all of them, comparing them all together, right? So today, if I look over your shoulder, I think we wanted to start with the Ace Frehley solo album. Right? And you'll see.
You like that product placement? You like that?
You like my product placement in the background there?
Yeah.
Did you see?
Yeah.
I took down my Sammy Hagar poster. I figured, I'm gonna put up the Ace poster.
Oh
today.
yeah, I see that. Now I see that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So we got some product placement going along. So I guess let's just jump right in. Ace Frehley solo album. So do you remember, first off, when did you get this as a kid? Do you remember?
I got it actually later, and actually I think I got it in '87.
Oh wow!
Surprisingly,
Wow.
It's only rock and roll in New York City on H Street. I still see the sticker. $20 I paid for that, and that's 1987 money. So with inflation, that's probably about $45 today. Which,
right?
So yeah, I think I've mentioned on previous episodes, when I was very young and they first came out, I was only allowed one solo album, and it was the Peter Criss solo album. Although I did, of course, know of the record and heard all the songs probably from your house when we were younger, and I had mixtapes and borrowed whoever record. So it's not like I wasn't familiar with the record at all. But to actually own the vinyl copy with, let's see, this actually has some of the stuff in here. Yeah, I believe it does. Yeah, it's got the poster and the
order form.
The order form and the poster in here. It's in here.
Nice.
But anyways, yeah. Wasn't until '87.
Wow, that's all these years we're friends. I don't know if I remembered that, but I must have made you a copy of it on cassette or something. I have to think you knew the songs in the late '70s, early '80s.
Of course,
right?
Of course I knew the songs. Yeah, and but I didn't really become as intimate with the record until my late teen years.
Right.
But of course, good.
No, I was gonna say, and I remember growing up, you were a big Anton Fig fan, so I'm assuming you were very excited that he was on this album, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, when I found out that Anton played on the first record, of course, I knew from this solo album, and I used to watch Letterman too, and I knew who Anton was. So
right.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the album. Let's talk about the songs, right? So you could talk about it from the point of view of now, or even if you could remember back in the '80s when you first knew the songs, right? You look at the body of work and what sticks out to you. What do you think of it? What do you like? What do you don't like?
So, and I just did another listen. I always try to do some prep work. I actually listened to it last night, and just from track 1 with Rip It Out, I don't know if you could start an album off with any better track than Rip It Out, at least as a Kiss fan. It's just, if this was a Kiss song, I would rank it as one of the best Kiss songs that was ever written, and I think that's how strong I think "Rip It Out" is.
Mm-hmm.
And
but let's pause there for a moment, though.
Yeah,
right. Because if this was a Kiss song in the '70s, I think the song would sound a lot different. Because I think one of the things that makes this song great is Anton's drumming on it. And no disrespect to Peter Criss, right? I love Peter Criss. But the drumming, the way Anton played, I don't know that Peter Criss could have played drums like that in the '70s or ever.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, certainly, Anton comes from, I think he's from South Africa, I want to say.
Yep.
And I think
Cape Town, South Africa, I think.
Yeah. So I think in speaking with him, we met him at the convention a couple of years back. Mm-hmm. He was saying how some of his influences where he grew up, I kind of translated into his drumming. And again, if you listen to that tune, he's kind of like riding the floor tom. I know we talked about this kind of with Eric Carr, and it's just an interesting groove in the sense of how it like really gives you this bottom end of the drums and this powerful groove, and then of course the drum break, which is it's classic, and like to this day, every drummer who I see plays with Ace Frehley never quite does it like Anton, and maybe they kind of want to do their own thing. I don't know if it's just a technical thing, but I remember when we saw Ace at what was the blues club in the city?
BB King's.
Yeah, BB King's, and Anton came up. Remember?
Yes, I do.
And it was awesome getting him to hear him play "Rip It Out" and doing those classic drum fills.
Right.
So.
Right. So to me, if it was a Kiss song, I wonder if it would be as good as it is right now. And I'm counting it as a solo album song, right? Even though it's got the Kiss logo on it. But I wonder if all four members are on it, how it would have been different.
Well, one of the things I don't know, I personally don't know, but like, did Ace come up with the guitar riff? Did Anton start that drum groove? Those type of things. I'm not sure of, like. Who led it in that direction of the feel of the tune. Right. But any way you slice it, see what I did there?
I see what you did there. We'll save those references for the Gene episode.
Yeah. It's just a product, I think, of the chemistry between Ace and Anton, which obviously later on that, Ace went to Anton several times, used him on future solo projects.
Absolutely.
And just one interesting tidbit, just from on a personal note.
Yeah.
The first song I ever played live, and you were there at Cooper Union in New York City. The first song I ever played live as a band was "Rip It Out," and I did the lead vocals on the drums. So, and I still have the bootleg cassette that you made.
Do you really?
Me.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
One of these days we have to listen to that.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Cool. So
very interesting.
That's so I have a personal kind of I guess I want to say love affair with that song because it just lives deeper within my heart.
And speaking of bootlegs, I was a big bootleg collector all through the 80s. And I remember I was so excited when I got my first Ace Frehley bootleg, probably around 85 or so. And he was doing some solo shows back then before his first album came out. His first solo show was November of 84, I think. And he was opening with "Rip It Out." And I was so excited to hear that, hey, this song's finally being performed live. And at the time, Anton was in the band. It was a great band, and so to me, it translated well live. Like you said, it's a great first song on an album. I can't think of a better song to start off Ace Frehley's album. What an incredible song. Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Absolutely.
So move along. I cut you off to talk about this.
No.
Move along.
No. You lead the way.
Okay. I'll lead the way. Inside joke. Nobody gets that. All right. So after "Rip It Out," we go to "Speeding Back to My Baby," "Snowblind," "Ozone," "What's on Your Mind." Right. That's the side one there. Right. So what other songs on side one stand out to you?
Well, what the thing that I thought about when I listened to it, I think Ace really tried to be super creative and do things that were different. Within the limitations of him as a guitar player. And I don't mean limitations that he was limited in skill, but we all know that, like, as he wasn't as technical as an Eddie Van Halen, as an Yngwie Malmsteen, his roots were in the Jimmy Pages of the world, and stuff like that. But, in a song like "Snowblind," It's just got such an interesting riff, you know? And what I love about that song is the interplay between Ace and Anton when he's going, you know, there's little things that Anton put in between. Those are the type of things when I think about Peter Criss, I'm thinking, I don't know if that would have happened, you know? And I just love the way the groove kind of changes 3 times in that song. You got that? And then it goes bam, 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 bam. And then the guitar solo, ding, 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 it goes into a double time fill, you know? Just such a cool how it comes out of that, does that build, does that climb coming out of solo, and it comes back,
absolutely.
You know, so creative, so not a Kiss song in my opinion. Like I can't picture that song being a Kiss song, you know? So.
And doesn't he also have like some kind of synth behind the guitar solo or with the guitar solo on that, right?
Yes, that's which is kind of, and I thought of that too yesterday. I was like, you know, I said, I don't know if that's the first time we heard synthesizers on a Kiss record, you know, because certainly on, I'm not gonna jump ahead, on Peter's record there were a lot of keyboards and stuff like that, but
very different,
very different. But you're right about that. And again, speeding back to my baby, I love that tune. I know we kind of skipped when I want to look at Snowblind, but I'm looking at the list here. Interesting. You know, I think his wife, Jeanette, at the time, did backing vocals on that. You know, I was listening to it last night. I don't think she's doing, speeding back.
No, I have a feeling
like that's definitely not her.
Exactly.
Like that impression of that part?
It's very good. Very good. Nice and clean voice at a Saturday morning. Exactly.
Yeah. But, yeah, that's just I mean, I love that tune. I think it's, you know, I don't want to say it's underrated. I don't know. Is it underrated? It's just, you know, I think that would have been a great Kiss tune, you know?
I was going to say, I think that Ace underrates it because, you know, all through the years he's playing solo. I've seen him do it a couple of times, but, you know, he always does, I shouldn't say always, but frequently he'll do Snowblind. I will say I could count on maybe 2 fingers the amount of times I've seen him do Speeding Back to My Baby. In 92, I saw him do it as part of, I think, like a medley of a few different songs. But to do the whole song, beginning to end, I'm going to say I've seen him do it twice. So to me, that means he's underrating the song because it's a great song on the album.
And that rip,
exactly.
That's like taken from one of his classic guitar solo riffs that he always does. You know, that he always does. So, I always love that tune.
Right. So. Yeah. No, me too. You know, the one for me on side 1 that always stands out, and you know this, I'll say more recently. I don't think you realize this about me for years, but I love What's on Your Mind. To me, it's another one that he underrates. Although I understand it's not your typical straightforward hard rock song like a Speed It Back to Maybe, Rip It Out. I love the whole thing with the acoustic guitar in it. I love the whole melody of the song. You know, I think I've seen him do it live only twice. Once on tour, and then once when we saw the '78 solo album Incomplete, which we'll talk about that maybe separately. Yeah. But you know, I think this is a bit unlike any of the other Ace songs that are on the album, or you know, even the songs he was doing in the '70s. It just, I don't know. It's one of my favorite Ace songs probably ever. What are your thoughts on that song?
Yeah, you know, I thought about that last night when I was listening to it because, you're right. I only discovered this recently that you told me.
Yeah.
For me personally, I mean, I think it's a great tune. It's not one of my favorites from the record. And, you know, we don't always agree on everything as what we think is the best or the worst.
We do have separate brains.
We do. It does happen, folks.
It does.
But, you know, I don't rank it up as high as maybe you do, but that's not to discount your feeling of the song.
That's right. You better not discount my feelings.
But I do think it's a great tune, and I agree with you. I think, you know, once again, Ace underrates this tune, and you know, it's just a great. I don't even know how to rank it. Like it's not like a pop tune. It's kind of like a mid rock tune, I guess. I don't know. You know, it's not metal. You know what I mean? It's just a good rocker. You know, it's a mid tempo rocking tune. You know. But you know, I'm looking one song back. That's what I'm looking at.
I was gonna say we skipped Ozone. I skipped Ozone.
Because Ozone
I was like excited. I'm like, oh, let's get to what's.
Yeah, I knew. Like, how quick? And took about not bad. About 10 minutes to talk about his favorite song on the record.
Right.
But Ozone is just such a weird tune.
It is. That
chorus, and just that, you know, that what he does under that vocal, it's just such an interesting guitar part. Once again, I think Ace was pulling out all the stops. And one of the things, I've said this to you in the past, one of the things about the Ace Frehley solo records is the Eddie Kramer factor.
Agreed.
Eddie
100%.
Kramer, in my opinion, gets the best out of Ace Frehley's vocals.
Yeah, agreed.
And there's a certain aggression that he gets, like if you listen to Rip It Out and a bunch of these, on Ozone, he's just got this kind of guttural performance that he gives. And whether it's how Eddie records it mic-wise and whatever he does in the studio, and that's a whole other discussion we could have, he just seems to get the best out of Ace's. And when I hear Ace's new records, now, again, he is older. Right. We're not going to have the same voice. But I always say, man, I wish Eddie Kramer would produce one of these records, because I just think that Eddie would just give it that extra, whatever he gives to Ace in a vocal performance and, probably in some arrangement ideas. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, of course. And I would love to know the Eddie Kramer factor in this record, too, like how much Eddie really contributed in the process of him putting these songs together, arrangements.
I think Ace and Eddie were together, I'll say, day and night recording this album. So, while Eddie doesn't get any songwriting credits, I absolutely agree with you. He must have had a hand in whether it's the arrangements, whether it is, the sounds, etc. Obviously, he did there.
Picking the songs.
Yeah, exactly. Picking the songs.
We'll get to that.
Exactly. So, to me, the interesting thing with Ozone is, let's think back to 78. Kiss was very guarded over what was going on in the band and who had drug problems and anything else. It was all like sunshine and rainbows all the time with Kiss at that time. And to hear a lyric on a Kiss album, I'm the kind of guy who likes getting high. I still look back and I'm like, wow, I'm surprised, the Kiss management was okay with that. For us now in 2020, we take that for granted. We're like, of course, Ace was high. We know that. He was drunk, he was high. But back in 78, that was not the angle that they were playing as a band at all.
No.
So I'm surprised they let that lyric go.
I mean, you're thinking like action figures were out around this time, right?
Exactly. Oh, dolls.
So, dolls. I'm sorry.
The dolls. Exactly.
Which is another reference, see?
Oh, that's good. I like it. And this time it was an Ace reference.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah, and Snowblind too. It's the same thing. I mean, what is he talking about? Snowblind. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
He's not talking about the Great Winter Storm of '78. I think that.
Yeah, it was.
Right.
But as a kid, that one was lost on me. So when he said Snowblind, I was like, okay, it might have been the great snow blizzard of '78 in New York City, because that's the only thing that existed in the world in '78 to me was New York City. So of course that's what he was singing about. But no, it's to me, I find that interesting about this album. It was really true to who Ace was lyrically, to who Ace was in '78.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's flip the album over. Four more songs on this album, starting with the huge hit, right? This is the only one across the 4 solo albums. Ace was the only one that had a hit on any of the albums, a legitimate bona fide top 40 hit, New York Groove. Obviously, we now know it was a cover. We always knew it was not written by him. It was actually a moderate hit for Hello in the UK, I think in 1975. But we didn't know that, right, as New Yorkers. To me, it's the quintessential Ace song, right? Everybody thinks of Ace, still to this day in New York. You go to a baseball game, you hear New York Groove in the background, although nobody's going to baseball games these days unless you're a cardboard cutout, but that's another whole thing altogether. But, what's your take on New York Groove?
Well, I mean, first of all, how cool was it living in New York City and he's singing New York Groove? I mean, it doesn't get any cooler than that. So for everything I understand about this tune, Eddie Kramer kind of pushed for this tune, and Ace really didn't want to do it. And which happened actually later on. I think when maybe I'm wrong about this, but didn't Eddie produce the record, the Ace Frehley solo record after Frehley's Comet? Did he produce that record?
But after Frehley's Comet, which one?
The Ace Frehley, the one that was called
the first
Trouble
one.
Walking. Trouble Walking.
Yeah, Trouble Walking. Yeah, okay, I got you. Yep.
Did he produce that one?
I'd have to go back and look. I want to say yes.
Because I know Do Ya, which was a cover on there. I think that was something that Ace didn't also want to do. I think Eddie wanted him to do.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which by the way, I think is a great version. But
me too.
I mean, it's just a classic. I mean, simple at best. I mean, you got like a one note little riff and you know, so it's, but you know, a great version nonetheless. And yeah, you know, another great vocal. You know what I love about that vocal? You hear, and I think we both have it, and people who watch our or your podcast will say, yeah, we could tell where these two guys are from. They're from, you know, this guy's from Brooklyn, you know. But I love that line where he goes, who cares about tomorrow? He doesn't say tomorrow. Who cares about tomorrow? I mean, totally like Bronx, New York. Like, he wasn't like, you know what, maybe you should enunciate that and say tomorrow. You know what I mean? Like when Paul Stanley, tomorrow. You know, so.
That's good. I love all the performances I'm getting.
Yeah. So that's one of my favorite parts of the song, you know, just hearing Ace, you know.
I'll probably never listen to that part the same now, thanks to you.
Did you ever think about it, though?
No, I haven't. No, I haven't.
But you know, now that I said it, right?
Totally, 100%. Right? To me, what I always find interesting, and you were saying before, Kramer producing it and getting the best out of him vocally, the verses, you know, the clean part of the verses almost doesn't sound like Ace's voice to me. I don't know if it's just me, but, you know, when he starts singing, like many years since I've been here, it's not that Ace voice that I just is so ingrained in my brain. Like, I remember as a kid at one point, I thought, oh, he has somebody else singing on the album with him. Like, and obviously that's not the case. I know that, but his voice just sounds so much cleaner, at least to my ears. And I'm not a musician. I'm not a friggin' producer. I leave all that stuff to you, but you can tell me I'm crazy. But to me, his voice just always sounded on the verses a lot different on the studio version.
Exactly what I was talking about, Eddie Kramer. You know, the harmonies that he does in the second half of the verses. You know, it's like it's again. We all know that Ace is limited in his vocal abilities, you know? I mean, I don't think we get that many arguments that he's probably the least vocally talented of the four guys, you know?
I don't think he would disagree with that either.
No. But, you know, to that, you know, he's still, you know, put out records and as soon as you hear Ace, you're like, yeah, there he is.
There he is.
I mean? Exactly. You know, you're never going to get a Sebastian Bach or, you know, whoever, you know, the great types of the hard rock metal scene.
Right.
But yeah, you're right about that. Good call on that. Yeah. It's like and it's also the treatment that he did in the studio. You know, there's certain things that, again, having some experience that you do with like chorusing and delays and reverb. And that's the magic of, I mean, you're talking about Eddie Kramer, you know, who worked on Zeppelin records and you know, of course, Jimi Hendrix, all the stuff he did with Hendrix. I mean, and there's countless number of artists. And like now you're working with, you know, Ace Frehley, you know, it's like, all right, how do we approach him as vocalist? You know, this, I mean, I know because I've read that Jimi Hendrix hated his voice.
Okay.
Like absolutely, like didn't even want to listen to playbacks because he just hated it. And Jimi Hendrix, and Kramer talks about that. I saw in a recent, he did like a master class and, you know, and Kramer loved his voice because it was so unique. You listen to Jimi Hendrix, nobody ever sounded like Jimi Hendrix as a guitar player, first of all, and then as vocalist. You know, just because you have guys like, and I know I'm going a little rant here, but you got guys like the Tom Pettys of the world, you know, the Bob Dylans of the world, the Paul Simon. These are not pure vocalists, but they're unique in sound.
Agreed.
You know, so Ace is kind of in that, you know, ballpark, I want to say, you know.
Absolutely. And you know, we're talking about his lead vocals, and I was going to bring this up after we spoke about all the songs, but it feels appropriate right now. The amazing thing, if you think about this 78 solo album, is you have to put it on the Kiss timeline appropriately. Ace only had, to this point, 2 lead vocals on a Kiss album, right? Shock Me and Rocket Ride. And that was it, right? So the thought of him putting out a solo album with, in this case, 9 songs, 8 with vocals on it, had to scare the bejesus out of the Kiss management team here, right? Because he was not a proven entity. Now, granted, Shock Me, they were doing live, was a great song. Rocket Ride's a great song as well, but it's still only 2.
Right.
It's not a whole album. And when we think about the songs like you were saying, Rip It Out, Speeding Back to My Baby, New York Groove, Snowblind, I mean, it's just the thought of him putting out an album as solid as this, with that few lead vocals, you can't minimize how incredible of a feat that is to me. You know, it's
absolutely.
absolutely incredible to me. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, to your point of what you said before with the lyrics of the tune, the Kiss management team must not have had a stranglehold, no pun intended,
said
Nugent, on the machine. I mean,
let's see how many more references of different.
This is just fun. I can try to keep it up.
Continue. I'm sorry.
Yeah. But so because they, to what you're saying with the vocals, I mean, I think they all knew at this point that, you know, there probably was some unhappiness with a couple of the guys, maybe with Peter and Ace, because they were always like the guys who wanted more, wanted this, whatever, you know, whatever the case. We all know the stories. We don't have to get into that. And, you know, to try to keep this together, I don't know who said it. I've read it, like, why don't we all just put out solo albums? Right. You know what I mean? And again, you just think of that, you know, first band to put out solo albums on the same day. What an incredible idea. And the whole promotion with the bags or whatever, or the ad that had the blank. Just brilliant, you know.
It was. Absolutely.
You know,
agreed.
The marketing was awesome, you know, but yeah.
Yeah. You know, sticking with this and the expectations of Ace's album for a moment, you know, not only did he only have 2 lead vocals, but I went back, you know, just to make sure I wasn't going crazy. Ace had only written 6 songs for Kiss on his own, right? So you had, I think it was 4 co-writes, and those 4 co-writes were like Love Theme from Kiss, you know, Flamin' Youth. He did the intro to Rock Bottom and Coming Home. Those were his 4 co-writes right before him. But otherwise, Ace had only written 6 songs prior to the solo album. Now, again, think about that. Over a 4 or 5 year period, the man had written 6 songs.
Yeah.
Now he's got and great songs, right? Cold Gin and Parasite and Strange Ways. But after Kiss Alive, 1 song by himself.
Yeah.
One song after Kiss Alive by himself. And now he's got to do a whole album, right? So I bring this up, and sometimes I think about this, and it kind of makes me a little sad. I'm like, damn, because when he wrote Parasite and Shock Me and Rocket Ride, right? And I said 1 song, it's actually 2, right? Because I always forget Rocket Ride, right? So Shock Me and Rocket Ride. But what a freaking lost opportunity to have more Ace songs on Kiss albums. Yeah. But my point in bringing this up is, you know, he had Since Alive, Shock Me, Rocket Ride. That was it. Now he's got to put a whole album out. Right. I wouldn't have been surprised if it was, you know, 5 clunkers and 2 or 3 good songs, because he had a track record of not writing. But on a solo album, he basically wrote every one of these songs on his own. Yeah, I know there's a couple of little co-writes there, but I think they're minor. I think Wipeout, which we hadn't spoke about yet, I think Anton actually brought that in originally on his own with some of the drum feel and all. But otherwise, to me, it's incredible what Ace was able to accomplish when you look at his back catalog and how, I hate to say lazy he was, because, right, that's always the knock on him, but he says it himself, how friggin' lazy he was. It just shows the dedication he had towards this album.
Yeah. Well, look, I don't know, again, who was the most unhappy at this point and wanted to do that. And maybe Ace was right up there, you know, and I think obviously that was fuel to the fire. Like, I'm going to do my best. I'm going to work my hardest on this and really prove to the guys in Kiss, maybe first and foremost, like, I'm a good songwriter. I'm a good singer, you know, and I can be giving you more. Right. And here it is, you know. Right. Give me more. Give me more.
You're on a roll today. No, but I think
be a Saturday thing.
I think you're right, because after this, obviously, Ace started getting a lot more songs on the albums, right? Dynasty, Unmasked. He got, I think it was 3 songs on each of the albums, more co-writes. So, you know, Ace really started to take off as both a songwriter and, to a lesser degree, a singer. And I say to a lesser degree because we just said he's not a great singer, but he certainly started to become much more of a focal point of the band compared to where he was in 74, 75, 76. That's for sure.
Well, let's also face facts. What usually happens is, as a band becomes more successful, the band members want more. Initially, Kiss was so hungry, they just wanted to make it big. They just wanted to, like, you know, I'm sure his focus was like, he was just probably more happy just to be a part of this thing, and let's see where this thing's going to go. Right. Now you start tasting some success. You start becoming more in the spotlight. Once you become more in the spotlight, you want to say, now look what I could really do. You know what I mean? This I could really become this even more larger than life character that I'm being
you did it again.
How many is that, man?
I don't know. You're on a roll.
So.
No, and to me, the solo albums impacted and I'll say changed Ace the most, right? I think that Ace before the solo albums and Ace after the solo albums, I don't want to say he was a different person, but certainly he started to take off to me as a musician with the solo albums on. Not that he didn't write some great songs before. Look, Parasite's one of my top 10 favorite Kiss songs. There's some great Ace songs, but he just became much more of a songwriter, a singer, obviously, from 78 forward.
Well, his confidence level certainly, probably skyrocketed. And not that we've talked about the Peter Criss solo album, because that was for another episode, but, just doing a sneak peek into that, you can just imagine, like, after Peter's solo record, just by the general, consensus of what people felt about that being so unkiss-like, I don't think it kind of boosted him in that same kind of way. But
Agreed.
But,
Agreed. So let's look at those last three songs, right? We haven't spoke about them, right? It's I'm in Need of Love, Wiped Out, and Fractured Mirror. Any thoughts or comments you want to make on those?
Well, one of the things I realized too, and then I'm in Need of Love. It's kind of like got that same thing that Snowblind has. They go into that kind of double time. It's it's a different chords, whatever, but they kind of cop that same thing that they used in the other song, which I noticed. What I'll just say generally about the second side, it's to me, it's definitely weaker than the first side. I mean, and I'm just throwing numbers, where the first side is a 10 rating. I feel like side 2 is more like in my quick analysis, like a 7 or something like that. You know what I mean? I don't want to discount New York Groove being a cover and Ace didn't write it, but truth of the matter is it's not his song. You still got to make something great out of something. You still got to give the performance. And I think to me, Fractured Mirror, although very creative, it was, and I'm probably gonna get people, oh, you're crazy. It just never was one of my favorite things. I thought it was cool, but
look, I said it before, I'm not a musician. Usually instrumentals don't move me. I happen to love Fractured Mirror. I know he's tried to do Fractured 2 and Fractured again and Fractured this and Fractured that or whatever the hell.
I got to keep it up for years.
Exactly, but he never recaptured it to me. But to me, Fractured Mirror, I love it. I think it's great. So it's interesting that me as the non-musician maybe likes it better more than you, the musician. So that's interesting.
Yeah, and look, let me be clear on this. It's not that I don't think it's good. Right. It's just not one of my favorite tracks on the record. I could something else very, very quickly as and then Wiped Out. It was cool that they started off like taking the song Wipeout, which had drums. So it's nice that that Anton kind of, maybe that was, like you said, Anton's thing is like, why don't we take Wipeout? I'll play the groove a little bit different, but it's got that, it's got that weird, like, it's just, and then it goes into the street again. That's what I love about this record is the fact that they did all these rhythmic changes. And again, I think that's like where Anton was a huge influence on this record and where Ace kind of used that to his advantage. But I love that tune. I think White Out is a great song.
Well, it's funny because I'm with you. All through the years, side A was so much stronger than side B. And that's not to say side B is not good, right? But just side A is that good, I guess is my point.
Yeah.
But growing up, I was never a big fan of I'm in Need of Love or Wiped Out. They were both like very average songs. Over the last, I'll say 3 to 5 years, I'm in Need of Love. I've learned to appreciate that and really like that a lot. I don't want to say it's now one of my favorites on the album, but it's over the years, it's moving up and up and up. I've just learned to get a much greater appreciation for that. Wiped Out is still a little wacky to me. I don't know what else to say. It still doesn't connect with me fully, but I'm in Need of Love. And seeing, I mentioned it before, seeing Ace do his entire 78 solo album a couple of years ago, and I know the sound in that room wasn't the greatest, but that was the song I was looking forward to hearing him do the most because A, he had never done it live before, and B, it's just, to me, it's a cool thing. I like the echo on the guitar. It sounds to me like it's exactly. It's like it's something. Exactly.
Yeah.
So one of the things I was going to say about this Ace album if I look across the 4 solo albums, to me, Ace played it safe. If I was going to criticize anything, I know he did like little things like we were just talking about, I Need a Love, I'm in Need of Love, and Snowblind, and there's little things, the synthesizer and all that. But it was, for all intents and purposes, 9 rock tunes, right? There's nothing that you listen to this and you stray and you say, hey, Kiss fans aren't going to like this, right?
Yeah.
All the other 3 albums, and we'll talk about them in separate episodes, but all the other 3 albums took chances. I feel like Ace, in my opinion, it's just my opinion, played it safe. No surprise, right? That's who Ace is. He's put out, 5, 6, 7 solo albums since then. Every one of them is very similar in style. He's a rocker at heart, right? Everybody says he's the sound of Kiss and he's the core of Kiss. That'd be my only knock, if you will, on the album, is that it's safe. Yeah.
I mean, the other thing, and like you said, we're not going to compare records right now. We're going to go into the other records. The way I look at it, he wrote 7 songs on this record.
Right.
I'm not even going to count the even though Fraction Mirror is a song,
right.
There's no lyric and whatever, So 7 songs, and it's always highly debated, which is the best. And a lot of people say the Ace Frehley, and some people say Paul Stanley. And what I'm going to say about the Paul Stanley is ... to be continued.
Right.
So I'm not going to comment yet on that, but I'm just setting it up with that 7 tracks in my mind. We'll just leave it at that for now. So.
No, look, I agree with you. It's 7 tracks. Now, saying that, New York Groove was a huge hit. And I think, you referenced this before with Ace doing Do Ya. And, we know on Ace's first solo album, he did Into the Night, which was not his song.
Yeah.
To me, him covering New York Groove, in a lot of ways, set the tone for his career as a solo artist. I think about it right now. He's doing Origins Volume 2 is coming out. It's an album of cover tunes. He did Origins Volume 1. I think the success of New York Groove kind of almost made it where he almost feels like, hey, I could take these songs. He did the Joker on one of his albums. Right? He could cover these songs and quote unquote make them his own and be successful with it. I think that's one of the things that kind of came out of him doing the 78 solo album.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's kind of also like with the Fraction Mirror. Like now he feels like he has to do an instrumental tune on every song. He kind of set the precedent, because I think a lot of people really like it, and they really like what he did with New York Groove, obviously, and as you said, it's played in arenas. Well, it's still to this day.
Right, exactly.
Or if you're watching a newscast and they talk about something with New York, they might play that in the background. It's really cool.
Right, absolutely. So if you were going to pick your 3 favorite songs from this album, what 3 songs would you choose?
I'm looking at the list now. It might be the first 3.
Really? Rip It Out, Speeding Back to My Baby, and Snowblind?
Snowblind, yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
I'm pretty okay with that.
You're pretty
definitely
okay.
The first 2. I'm definitely the first 2. Now I'm just looking at Snowblind and I'm looking at the other tunes. Yeah.
I would say for me, I'm going to say number 1 is What's on Your Mind, right? I have to put Rip It Out in there, and I think I'm going to go with you also and say Speeding Back to My Baby. And it goes back to what we were saying before about Ace not appreciating that song enough, right? So we both just now off the cuff put our top 3 songs from the album, and both of us chose Speeding Back to My Baby. Right. Ace, if you're watching, if you're listening, put the damn song in your set list when you start performing live again, okay?
Yeah, exactly.
It belongs in the set list. Yeah, so those are my 3. The one other thing I want to say about this record to me is that, so I just said he played it safe, but now on the flip side, as a solo album, it is truly to me a solo album, right? And we'll talk about the other albums, Gene and Peter especially, and some of the people they had on his, but Ace did most of this album on his own. He did the guitars. He even plays bass. I think it's like on 6 of the 9 tracks. I know Will Lee's on the album, but Will Lee's only on 3 songs, if I remember right. Of course, he had somebody play drums, right? Ace is not a drummer, but really that's it. He had some people come in and do some backing vocals, but otherwise Ace is doing everything on the album. And I think that's kind of cool because these are solo albums, and Ace really did it as a solo artist, And the interesting thing to note, I don't know how many people recognize this or remember this, we talk about Anton Fig's drumming on the album, rightly so. Anton's not on Fractured Mirror. Do you realize that? Do you remember that?
No, I don't. But
Yeah.
thank you for the refresher.
Yes.
Tell me.
So, everybody always says Anton Fig. I'm 99% positive. Somebody could fact check me because I'm doing this off the top of my head, but I think Anton Fig is not on Fractured Mirror. And I'm always thinking that Anton's on the whole album. Now, it doesn't make a difference, right? I mean, there's not like there's great drums. There's some like drum click on there or whatever. But yeah, it's just interesting. But point being, there's basically no special guests on this album. It's all Ace. And that to me is, when we think about how few vocals he had done beforehand, how few songs he had written on his own, the fact that this man got in the studio and did this album 90% on his own, the songwriting, the singing, the playing, is just remarkable to me when you look at that and look about where he was in 1978. It's absolutely incredible.
Well, it just goes to show once again what I was saying earlier, how hungry he was to really make this and prove like this is going to be a great record and I'm a great songwriter.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So anything else you wanted to mention on this album? We're not going to compare it to the other three now because we're going to do one fifth and final episode that kind of summarizes all of them. But anything else about the Ace solo album that you wanted to discuss?
I don't think so. The only other thing I should be mentioned is, in the credits, he mentions that I think he uses a guitar synthesizer, which at that time was like really new, which is kind of cool. And it's sometimes where I try to listen to where it is. Probably a lot of it's on like maybe Fractured Mirror. Okay. Like whatever that thing is. I got to figure that's the guitar synthesizer.
Okay.
And just, again, I just think that's kind of a little cool little fact. Like, guitar synthesizers may have debuted in 77, 78, around that time frame. So,
and I just always assumed that was in part with Snowblind, some of that, but you're saying that's not where it was?
Oh, I'm not saying it's not there either. Okay, gotcha. But I just, that weird like sound, it's just, I got to figure that was a guitar synthesizer.
Gotcha.
Again, somebody wants to fact check me, I'd be more than happy to be
there you go.
corrected if I'm wrong and to, be told what it actually is, that sound, but that's what it sounds like to me.
Cool. Yeah. So, alrighty, we did our top 3 songs, each of us. I'll be curious to see what other people think their top 3 songs are from the album. What do you think of the album? Let's not right now get into comparing it to the others, right? We know people have certain preferences of one over the other, but what do you think of this as a standalone album? What do you think of it? 9 songs. Which songs do you like the most? What don't you like? Do you like the album? Overall, what do you think of it as a standalone album? I'd like to see people comment on that. So I think that's it.
Don't they put the comments below?
Yes, they put the comments below. Yes, exactly.
After they subscribe.
Exactly. Exactly. Thank you, buddy. Yes, subscribe, comments, and we look forward to hearing your feedback.
Exactly.
I think that's it, though, right? I think that's a wrap on this one. Any more song references you want to throw out there? I know I'm putting you a little under the gun right now. I'm sorry.
Oh, I had to think for a second.
I was like, you can let
we'll
that
leave
go
it at that. We'll leave you with the last one.
All right, very good. All right, that's it for this time. Half Ringo's out. You'll get that reference from another episode. Half
Double Ringo.
Double Ringo, half Ringo. All right, buddy. Talk to you soon.
All right, buddy.
Later.
Alrighty, there you have it. We look forward to hearing your comments about this 1978 Ace Frehley solo album. I think most Kiss fans agree that this album is great, but we'd love to hear your comments and thoughts. We'd also like to hear what your top 3 songs are from this album. Like I said at the start, be on the lookout for our upcoming episodes where we take a deep dive looking at the Peter Criss, Gene Simmons, and Paul Stanley solo albums as well. We'll also do a 5th and final episode on the solo albums where we'll put together our Best of Solo LP as well as talk about the entire product as a whole. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button below. If you're listening to one of my podcasts, subscribe over there as well. Also, head on over to Facebook and follow my page, The Rock and Roll Experience with Mike Brunn, where each and every day we talk about all the rock and roll music that you love. That's it for this episode. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. See you guys soon.